Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another live edition of the Dogs Podcast. Just Josh and Blake here today. Justin got ill last minute. We thought he was going to be here today, so he wasn't able to make it. He was even going to try virtual, but he's just too sick. So he wasn't able to hop on. And then we put out some calls to Kenny Mack, and he texted us back literally just as we were about to hit go live. So Kenny,
if you're so close, Kenny.
Yes, if you're in here, we were just about to go live when you texted us back. We already had everything unplugged and whatnot. So it's just going to be Josh and I today. Hopefully we can still keep you guys excited. I know Justin's like the good-looking one.
He is. He's got that nice beard. But we used to do we did a lot of Blake and Josh shows.
Yeah, back in the day.
So
back when we didn't have full commitment. No.
Those were the cop days.
Yeah. Today we got a good episode. We're going to get into the Browns hiring. Obviously, big news this week with Ken Dorsey. Obviously, we also, I don't know if we've officially said it on the show, but we hired Deuce Staley for the running back coach, hired the D-line coach, Jacques Cesare. I'm probably butchering that. Maybe somebody can put a phonetic spelling in the chat. Help me out. Then we're going to talk about these the AFC Championship game, the NFC Championship game, maybe get into Stump Mitchell a little bit, kind of talk about Pat Mahomes, Lamar. We're going to get into a little bit of everything. I think it's going to be a good episode. So make sure you guys are hanging out with us for the entire 2 hours that we're going to be here. No, just kidding. Before we get into it, though, remember, if you want to get your intros on the show, head to thedogspodcast.com. Tap leave voicemail on the drop-down menu. While you're there, you can also head to the shop and get yourself some of our merch. Very important. You guys have about a week to get in your votes for the Mad Dog Awards. So head to thedogspodcast.com/vote. We want to get as many votes as possible. I expect everybody in the dog pack to vote at least one time. So make sure you guys are jumping in there. Please vote. It literally takes a minute, if that, to vote. And the more votes we get, the more fun the award show is. So head to thedogspodcast.com/vote to cast your votes for the fourth annual dog pack or
Mad Dog
Awards. I was getting ahead of myself.
There's a lot of dogs.
Yeah. So make sure you guys do that for us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of the new content we're putting out. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you prefer to just listen to the show, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google. Lastly, if you're looking for more dogs content, head to jointhedogs.com. Become an official Dog Pack member on the Patreon page. Access to the private Discord. Play fantasy football with us once football season rolls around. You get an extra episode every week. Sometimes you get to be on episodes. It's just a good time, especially in this off season. We would literally talk every single day in the Discord. So I talk to some of these people more than I talk to my family members. So if you're looking for some good Cleveland Browns camaraderie, college football is big in there, and we're all across the country. So there's SEC fans. I doubt there's any Pac-12 fans because there aren't any. But there's a little bit of everything in there. So if you just want to meet a bunch of good people from all over, talk Browns football, and just kind of hang out, head to the dogs, jointhedogs.com, become an official Dog Pack member. So moving into, the big news of the week for the Browns, hiring Ken Dorsey to be our offensive coordinator. I'm not going to lie, and especially if you follow us on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, as soon as the news broke, I retweeted it and was like, I freaking hate this move.
And you said that on last week's show whenever the Browns had already brought in Ken Dorsey for an interview, and you said, pretty sure this is the quote, I want no part of Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, I wanted no part of him. And now that I took time, it was kind of coming from a place of ignorance. It was kind of on the surface, you look, Ken Dorsey, offensive coordinator of the Bills. They got better when he was gone. They won more games, went on a streak after he got fired. We don't want this guy. Then you start to look a little bit deeper and you're like, well, actually, their offense wasn't statistically better.
Correct.
When he left, it got worse. They did, I think, at least from what I can tell, they ran the ball more, took the ball away from Josh Allen some, so he couldn't turn it over as much.
Yeah, and they said the defensive side of the ball improved over that second half of the season. So it's kind of like a double-edged thing where the defense was sucking the first half. They were 5-5, and yeah.
But one thing that was brought to my attention that I definitely, and I kind of knew this based on him being on my fantasy team. Stephon Diggs with Ken Dorsey this year played 10 games, had 73 catches, 868 yards, and 7 touchdowns.
Wait, how many yards?
So 868.
I didn't realize he had that many.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
In the 9 games without Ken Dorsey this year, he had 44 catches, 388 yards, and 1 touchdown.
I know he like disappeared.
Yes, trust me, it cost me.
I know, I remember.
Yes,
yeah, you were.
He just, and livid. I'm not saying like force feed him the ball, but at the end of the day, Stephon Diggs is outside of Josh Allen. He is their best offensive weapon, and they had people talking like Stephon Diggs was all of a sudden washed. Well, then why in the first 10 games? I mean, he was on track for 1,600 yards, 1,700 yards, and 14, 15 touchdowns. He's not washed. They just the offense didn't get better, like you said. The defense got better. Maybe they became more balanced. I do know that Ken Dorsey is not a run the ball kind of guy. He builds his offense very quarterback centric, very quarterback dependent. Now, I know Browns fans probably don't want to hear this. That's the way the Browns are going to go.
We'll get to it. I've got a whole list here. We'll go through all this stuff about Ken Dorsey. But on the running side, I actually do have some good news. Now, you're right. It's definitely going to be pass happy. It's quarterback focused. Everything you just said is true. But running back efficiency is a key thing that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, so that was a big thing in terms of like in terms of like Stephon Diggs' production. I mean, he disappeared after Ken Dorsey left. So I know people were kind of giving me crap on Twitter about my initial reaction. The more I think about it, I think I want Kevin to call plays still.
Me too.
I think I still want Kevin to call plays.
I've seen a lot of people saying that is a bad thing. Like, what's it matter? Who cares if it's Ken Dorsey or somebody else? Kevin's never going to give up play calling. And my response keeps being, okay, do we want him to give up play calling?
Yeah, he's good at it, turns out. But if he does give up play calling, I'm still not going to. I saw a thing from Terry Pluto. I don't know. He obviously reports on the Browns and writes books. I don't know how in the know he is, though, with current locker room talk. He did say that there's serious consideration of Ken Dorsey calling plays, but it hasn't been officially decided yet. But I do think no matter what happens, Kevin Stefanski is going to have a firm grip on the offense. And I don't think it's going to just turn into Deshaun's not going to be coming out here throwing the ball 60 times a game and we're just going to completely abandon the run game. I think the way this works out well for the Browns is it's like a marriage between what Kevin likes to do and then what Ken Dorsey likes to do. I think if we can blend these two offenses together, it could be something like really good. You know what I mean? If you keep his run game concepts and you mix in what Ken Dorsey can bring in the pass game. So like what some people don't know about Ken Dorsey, and I didn't even know this until I started, looking this up. He was the quarterback's coach for Carolina when Cam Newton, I think it was his MVP season.
Yes. I actually have do you want me to go ahead and kind of go through some of this stuff? Okay, so Ken Dorsey, when he first got into the NFL, was the QB coach for the Panthers, like you said, from 2013 to 2017. Ken Dorsey guided Cam Newton to 17,154 yards and 118 touchdowns in 4 seasons. I broke that down. That means Newton averaged 4,300 yards and 30 touchdowns a season with Dorsey as his quarterback coach. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's been credited for helping guide Newton to the 2015 MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, and the Super Bowl appearance that season. And Cam Newton, after Dorsey was hired away from Carolina by the Bills, Cam Newton came out and said, I credit a lot of my success to Ken Dorsey. He is an extremely hard and efficient worker. He made my life as easy as possible. Not only is he a hard worker, but he has a vibrant killer instinct. He's a known, proven winner over the years.
Oh, well, he is he's a fiery guy. There's definitely some contrast in terms of personalities.
Yes.
When it comes to the coaching staff, like I don't know how fiery Bubba Ventrone is a special teams coordinator. I don't know how often we get to see him get fired up, but like Jim Schwartz is a fiery guy.
Yep.
I get the sense that Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are like very chill and mellow and even keeled. Now you're getting Ken Dorsey. Everybody's seen that video of Allen turned it over or something, and he just completely loses his mind up in the booth. So that you're getting a little bit of everything,
which could be good. One of the things that and again, fans will criticize anything, but you do hear it a lot. Well, Kevin needs to show more emotion. He needs to get more in the referee's face on this or that or the other. And I feel like Dorsey's personality is kind of like the anti-Kevin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not that stoic, calm, cool, collected throughout the whole game. He's going to lose his freaking mind if something goes bad.
I saw. I just had something on the tip of my tongue. It says, I hope Stefanski's calling plays, but Dorsey has strong input on the style of plays being called. I completely agree.
Yes, exactly.
That's exactly what I'm hoping. I see Diggs to Browns. I actually thought that. Like,
Interesting.
Is that a possibility? I don't know. I think the Browns are going to have their eyes on some of these top free agent wide receivers. I just don't know until we see what they can do with the cap and how they're going to manipulate the cap and who they're going to restructure. It's hard to put out a list of like, oh yeah, these are good targets for the Browns. I mean, because we don't, as of right now, we can't afford anybody. You know what I mean? So like they might be able to sign me because I mean, I'll play for free. But outside of, me or you, I don't know who they have the money to sign right now. So until we see what Andrew Berry comes up with in terms of restructuring contracts, people getting cut and that kind of stuff, it's hard to identify top free agents that we're going to actually pursue. Yeah,
there's definitely money that can be found because I was kind of playing with some over-the-cap stuff. I mean, pre-June 1st cuts and trades, post-June 1st cuts and trades, there's money to be had. So we're going to see some changes, but we'll get into that as the offseason rolls on. Did you want to talk about anything else before I kind of go into the next portion of Dorsey's resume here?
Go ahead. I still have whatever I was going to say in my brain, and I can't think of it.
Well, just cut me off if you figure it out.
All right.
So then he was the quarterback, got hired as the quarterbacks coach in 2019. So it's not like he got promoted to offensive coordinator. He came over to Buffalo as the quarterback coach. Josh Allen had a 17.4 increase in his quarterback rating that season. It was the largest improvement of any quarterback in that season. So Josh Allen took his leap when Ken Dorsey came over to Buffalo in 2020. Josh Allen was second in MVP voting. So there, he has Cam Newton win an MVP as Josh Allen second in MVP voting. This is pretty good track record. Josh Allen had a 69.2 completion percentage, 4,544 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 8 games with 300-plus passing yards. Those were all team records. He put another 9 touchdowns in on the ground. And then in 21, Dorsey's promoted to passing game coordinator, still not the OC. Josh Allen had a 149 QB rating in the playoffs for the whole playoffs, most all time for somebody who passed for over 50 or threw over 50 passes in the postseason. Then in 2022, promoted to OC in Buffalo.
And I know a thing. Some people are like, "Why are you guys giving him so much credit for some of these quarterback stats when he's just like their quarterbacks coach? He's not, he's not the offensive coordinator." What are 2 things that you could probably say like Cam Newton and Josh Allen had in common coming into the league and maybe even throughout their careers? Mechanics,
raw prospects,
not necessarily projects because they were drafted high, but they were looked at as raw. Josh Allen was
small school.
Yes.
I would say he's more of a project.
Yeah,
probably.
Cam Newton was from Auburn, won national championship, but Josh Allen definitely from the small school, and definitely seen as a raw talent. Had the huge arm, was super athletic, but he completed under 60% of his passes in college.
Was bad.
Yes, yeah. And even his first year, maybe 2. I'm not exactly sure when. Like his accuracy wasn't great. And then he took that huge leap when Ken Dorsey comes in to be his quarterback's coach. So he knows how to coach up a mobile quarterback who maybe isn't like the most, like you got your guys like Tom Brady where it's all mechanics. You know what I mean? Because he's just not like a freak athlete. You get guys like Josh Allen and Cam Newton coming up a lot through their careers. They were just so much more athletic, bigger, faster, stronger, big arm than everybody they played against. And they were able to rely on that and dominate the competition. You get to the NFL where everybody's bigger, faster, stronger. It comes down to mechanics. Mm-hmm. And that's where a good quarterback coach comes into play. And you saw him take Cam Newton in tournament into an MVP. And then you saw him take Josh Allen, who honestly – like not calling him a bust. You could see some of the flashes, but it was like just a lot more of the same of Josh Allen in college. Low completion percentage, inaccurate, and then all of a sudden, boom. And a lot of people contributed to Dayball and Diggs. And lost in that is the fact that Ken Dorsey also came in to be the quarterback's coach.
Right. I know a lot of people always say, if the Browns would have just drafted Josh Allen instead of Baker Mayfield. There's no saying that Josh Allen comes to Cleveland, that raw prospect, that super inaccurate passer, and does anything like he's doing in Buffalo when he's got Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley and Freddie Kitchen. I mean,
listen,
come on.
I've been very hard on Baker. It's well documented. Okay,
I know exactly what you're going to say.
I loved him when he came in. It's who I wanted. And then the longer we had him, just the more I was like, this isn't the guy. That being said, I don't know if there's another quarterback who mentally is just like cocky enough and gritty enough and just doesn't give a fuck enough that could have come into Cleveland and stuck it out and made it 4 years in Cleveland during that transition.
100% agree. I really do agree with that.
Like, so again, I might have been happy to move on from Baker in terms of like a talent perspective, but he 100% was part of the turning of the culture, and he stabilized a position long enough for us to be able to build up a roster around him. And up until Baker, we had never had a guy who was even good enough just for us to be like, okay, for a couple seasons, we don't got to worry about this guy.
Yeah.
We can build up the roster around him and quit trying to just find the future in the first round every single time. And he was able to do that. I mean, and we owe Baker for that. Again, I've been hard on the guy offensively. I don't think, I've been on the record as saying I didn't think he could take us to the promised land, but there's no denying that he afforded us the chance to build up into a potential championship roster by being there every week, showing up, playing well enough that we didn't have to blow top-end draft picks on quarterback every single year. And I don't know if there's another quarterback who could have dealt with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you just look at that draft class, I don't think there is.
Yeah, it wasn't Darnold.
I'd be surprised. Yeah, it was not Darnold.
It wasn't Darnold. And who knows with Allen, you know what I mean? But I feel like they were a lot more patient with him up in Buffalo than people would have been with him down here in Cleveland.
That is true. There's very little patience down here. So let's move into 2023 this season. So this is what everybody's kind of talking about. This is kind of where I think your initial reaction to Ken Dorsey. I mean, mine too. I mean, honestly, when I saw the Browns were bringing him in, I was like, really? I mean, I didn't know a whole lot about him. But once I started digging, it was like, okay, this is interesting. So the Bills were 5-5 before he was fired, but the Bills were also second in points scored, third in DVOA, first in success rate, fourth in QBR, third in yards per play, second in third down conversion rate, third in red zone efficiency, second in rush expected points added, eighth in drop back expected points added, third in total expected points added per play. And Josh Allen was number one in EPA plus CPOE composite. I don't know what the hell all that stuff means exactly, but I do see a lot of top 10 and mostly top 3 in most of these categories.
Yeah, like you said, it was a lot of the defense and Josh Allen turning the ball over, which I think sometimes people really bag on Josh Allen for his turnovers. Whenever you score touchdowns at the rate he does, though, and his usage is so high. I mean, that's why I am looking. I don't want this to be an 100% Ken Dorsey offense. I want this to be a blend of what Kevin does and what Ken does. And somebody mentioned Tommy Reese.
Yes.
Like we brought in a lot of guys who have different offensive perspectives to kind of try to build this thing up around Deshaun. I don't want, even though I think Deshaun's the catalyst for this team going forward, we need him to play at an MVP level to be good. I'm still not trying to like put the world on him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want him to have to carry the load for 17 games for us to be good. And because then the turnovers do come up. But Josh Allen just turns the ball over a lot.
Yep.
But he also scores touchdowns. And I mean, he had, 1,000 more touchdowns than everybody else this year. Like, I think if you add up all his touchdown to turnover ratio is still like well over 2-1.
Well, and that's just kind of his style of play too. Like, he's not afraid to just chuck it, and chuck it and F it. So it's
He's
just
a gunslinger.
You get that with it. It comes with the territory, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So I put in here a lot of people saying, and I've seen this all over the place, he was the scapegoat, for everything. And I think there might be some truth to that. We talked about the poor defensive play in those first 10 games and the massive drop off from Diggs after that. And then the running backs, I didn't know this. They had 4 lost fumbles that led to scores for the opponent during those first 10 games. So, the losses is almost like they did blame Ken Dorsey for it whenever I don't think really it was his fault. And then if you look at these stats, and this is where people were sending us the stats, the graphics and things, the Bills dropped in every category. They went down to 6th in points scored. They were 2nd. 4th in red zone efficiency. They were 3rd. So basically stayed the same. 6th in total EPA. They were 3rd. 8th in drop back EPA, that was the same, but they dropped to 7th in rushing EPA, they were 2nd. Josh Allen dropped all the way to 9th in that EPA CPOE composite. He was number 1, and he kind of stayed the same as far as QBR goes. But the passing attempts, I mean, the offense completely flipped on its head.
They became a lot more balanced, which, I mean, I guess you could make the argument if your quarterback is struggling to not turn the ball over and your defense is struggling, run the ball and control the clock. So you'd like to think an offensive coordinator would kind of maybe adjust. Mm-hmm. But again, this is where Kevin comes in. You know what I mean? With his – because Kevin schemes up a great run game.
Oh.
And I don't even hate his passing.
No, because
I think
we see how open guys are.
I think there's things that can be done to modernize it. You see people do that cheat motion. We never do that.
Right.
And stuff like that. But, no, I think this could be a really good thing. There were just other guys that I had my eye on. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when we drafted Newsome.
Dude, I saw somebody say that. Somebody was like...
It reminded me of when we drafted, and I had my eye on Bateman, and was it JOK?
Yes.
Was that the same draft?
Yeah.
And I had my eyes on these guys, and we drafted Newsome, and everybody who watched that night, we were like less than thrilled to have Newsome. And it makes me feel terrible about it. And then it was like the very next day, I was like, well, hell, this guy's good.
Yeah.
You know? And then I started looking into it more and more, and I was like, no, okay, and we're all big Newsome fans. So it was kind of that same reaction. Some people were giving me crap on Twitter, and I said, guys, at the end of the day, I'm just a Browns fan.
Right,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And I know we do a podcast, but I'm far from an analyst. Well, maybe I am. But I'm far from an analyst on here. I'm just a Browns fan. And I had guys I wanted in mind. I saw was the guy who I had towards the bottom of my list admittedly, is because I hadn't done enough research on him. But I just know I like the idea of the guy from the Rams, getting a guy out of the Sean McVay coaching tree. I like the guy from the Texans who did so well with CJ Stroud and their offense. So I just had my eyes on some other guys. Then we hired this guy, and I was like, God, come on. Why would we maybe he'll be great for us, but Ken Dorsey's, and hopefully he can change this narrative. Ken Dorsey is always going to be the guy that we beat in the national championship.
Yeah.
He's always going to be that guy to me. And hopefully he can change my mind on that. Maybe I'll get to shake his hand one day.
I'm pretty sure, too, I saw when he played for the Browns for, I think it was 2 seasons, he walked away with 0 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So it wasn't like his college play kind of followed.
You know what they say? Those who can't do, coach.
Exactly. Yes.
So there we go.
That's how it goes. This episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Browns fans, the Super Bowl is decided, and the rat turds are not going to be there. It's the Chiefs taking on the San Francisco 49ers on February 11th. But before the big game, make sure you guys get your orders in at Omaha Steaks. Don't throw your Super Bowl parties or, even your Valentine's Day meals, because let's face it, that's coming up too, guys, real fast. Do not host these events without the best meats and foods available from Omaha Steaks. Right now, when you order at omahasteaks.com/dogs, DAWGS, you will get 4 free pork chops and 4 free boneless chicken breasts with your order. That's 8 free additional items when you place your order right now at omahasteaks.com/dogs. I've been saying it forever. Best steaks, best burgers, steak burgers. Oh my gosh. The best chicken, the best ready-to-eat meals, the desserts. For Valentine's Day, I'm telling you, make sure you add the caramel apple tartlets to your order. She's going to love them. So go now, get it in time for all the big things happening coming up here in February. omahasteaks.com/dogs. What's up, Browns fans in Ohio? If you haven't signed up for Caesars Sportsbook yet, now is the perfect time to do so with the NFL playoffs underway. New customers will get their first bet on Caesars up to $1,000 when signing up with our promo code DOGS1000. That means if your first bet loses, you will get your full wager returned as a bonus bet, up to $1,000. Caesars offers daily profit boosts as well as Caesars rewards credits on every wager, which can be redeemed for bonuses, sports tickets, and other VIP experiences. If you're ready to join Caesars Sportsbook, go download the app and register with our promo code DOGS1000 to make sure your first bet is covered. Offer is only available for new customers who are 21 and older and physically present in Ohio. Please gamble responsibly. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you can qualify. The last thing, though, that I wanted to say about Dorsey is about that run game. So I alluded to that earlier because I was reading this, and I think it was on Browns Wire earlier, and they were talking about how Stefanski runs more of like a pin and pull outside zone run scheme, which we all saw was not good this year. Just wasn't good. It wasn't efficient. it sucked. We were terrible on the ground for the most part. So I know we lost Nick Chubb, but that drop off in efficiency, that wasn't just a running back skill thing. In my opinion, I think it had a lot to do with the scheme. I was looking at next gen stats, NFL next gen stats. Jerome Ford was the second least efficient running back in the NFL this season.
I did see a thing though that maybe will surprise you, and it surprised me. And again, I'm not saying he was great or anything. Mm-hmm. Jerome Ford had over 1,100 all-purpose yards and like a pretty decent amount of touchdowns.
He did, and I think John the one day said he's kind of like Saquon light, where it's like, here's a yard, boom, home run, 50-yard run, and it's like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from like Jerome's season on the whole. It was good. He put up good numbers, but
you said not efficient.
Not efficient.
It was very high usage to get some of that.
Right. So, and again, this is all coming from NFL Next Gen Stats. So they had him listed as the second least efficient running back in the NFL, and he also had the highest time behind the line of scrimmage of any running back in the NFL.
And I think that is what killed Browns fans on him this year.
Yep.
It just, you could see it. He was just dancing behind the line. Some of it was
lateral.
Yes, no huge holes for him to run through. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just make the hole. You just put your head down and run through a couple arm tackles and get 3 yards.
Yeah. So Kareem Hunt was the 7th least efficient running back. So both of our running backs were not efficient this year. And then I went back and I looked, okay, well, what happened last year in 22 when Ken Dorsey was running the offense in Buffalo and Devin Singletary was their lead running back? He was the 7th most efficient running back in the league. Okay, I mean, that could be him, could be Dorsey, whatever, but his time behind the line of scrimmage was 2.72. To compare Ford's this season, remember he was the last, was 3.16. And the highest in 2022 was actually Nick Chubb at 3.1 time behind the line of scrimmage. So this run scheme almost forces the running backs, because now it's not just Ford and Hunt that have a high time behind the line of scrimmage. It was also Nick Chubb last year. He had the highest last year. I did not know that.
No, and again, you can look at this a couple different ways. You know who else probably had a super high time behind the line of scrimmage? It would have been like prime Le'Veon Bell.
That was definitely his running style.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like if your running back is, the problem is there's a difference between patience and indecisiveness.
That's,
you know what I mean?
Very
Nick
true.
Chubb is a very patient back. He'll wait. He's setting up his block, but he knows where he's going. Then he makes his cut and goes. Okay. Jerome Ford it wasn't he's waiting to set up a block. It's he's searching where to go. You know what I mean?
Totally agree.
And so I think there's a difference between patience and indecisiveness. Gates says draft Blake Corum. I definitely think that's an option for the Browns if you can get him at a certain place in the draft. Devontae Travis says, he said it on the Facebook post, air raid offense, more spread, 2 to 3 wide receivers on the field, moving guys around the field. A good coach will always correct the small things like a DW4, play action fakes. I totally agree. Those are things you can work on. You got Joe Flacco film now of him doing these play action that you can make a cut up and show Deshaun coming into next year. Like, look at how Joe carries out these fakes. Look what it opens up for him in the passing game. And you can use that as a teaching point. To the Browns fans who might be worried, like, oh, we went and got this guy. We're talking air raid. We're going to be throwing the ball around. Like, welcome to the modern NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I know it sucks, we don't know, one, when Chubb is going to be able to play.
He most likely started the year on PUP.
Yes, so we don't know. 2, you don't know what he's gonna be like when you get him back.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So and we traded 3 first-round draft picks and we paid Deshaun $230 million. He's gonna be you don't do that to make this guy be a game manager. If that was the case, we just would have kept Baker Mayfield. Right. You know what I mean? And some people are like, yeah, we could have kept Baker and we'd have all these, but that team's not winning the Super Bowl. Did you watch championship weekend? You know what I mean? Like, you got to go beat Pat Mahomes. This was a year, I was saying that if there's one team I wanted to play in the playoffs, it was the Chiefs. They're in the freaking Super Bowl.
The Chiefs are 100% the new Patriots, and we'll talk about them here in a second.
Yes.
But I won't bet against them anymore.
No.
Not until they lose.
And so it's one of those things, yes, you can game manage your way to 10 wins, 11 wins, playoffs, But you got to have a guy who can be a difference maker when the play breaks down.
Yeah.
That can make some plays for you. And that's you're going to build the offense. You saw the Cowboys move away from Zeke and go to a more Dak-centric offense. It hasn't worked out for them because they're the Cowboys. They'll forever suck. Some people say we're the Browns. We'll forever suck. I'm hoping that's not true.
They were still good. They made the playoffs. They were a formidable team all season. Just they end up choking in the playoffs, unfortunately for them. But it kind of goes back to, I don't think a lot of Browns fans that do the whole Baker Deshaun argument. I know we weren't going to talk too much about that tonight on the agenda, but we were going to have to pay Baker 40 plus.
Yes,
annual salary, $40+ million a year. At that time, if we were going to extend him, otherwise he wasn't going to sign. That was the discussion. And so Deshaun being at 47 or something right now? I don't know.
I just saw Kirk Cousins is looking for at least $40 million a year or something to sign a 2-year extension or something like that. And
he's coming off an Achilles.
Yes.
At 30, 5 or 6.
And that's one of those things yes, Baker can game manage you when you have this roster around him. But if you pay him all that money, you're not going to put that roster around him, and you need somebody to elevate. We are yet to see if Deshaun can be that guy to elevate. But the move tells you we put more stock in the fact that he will be that guy than we thought Baker could be that guy. What do you think is going to happen in Tampa Bay if they lose Mike Evans?
It's going to be rough going.
You know what I mean? So if they give Baker a ton, I don't know what their cap situation's like. So I don't know. Can they afford to give Baker a big contract and pay Mike Evans? Maybe they can. But that's why you make the move, because you're not going to be able to put an absolute stacked roster around everybody all the time.
Did you get to watch Andrew Berry's press conference or the show that I did with Kenny last week?
I watched some of it. Yes.
Okay. Did you see the comments that Andrew Berry made about Deshaun Watson about the 10-year time frame made total sense to me. And I don't know if everybody was expecting that, but as soon as he said it, I'm like, that makes sense. He said when they brought him in, when they made the trade, when they signed him, we looked at it as a 10-year timeline. Yeah. It's a 5-year contract, but a 10-year timeline. And I'm doing research and stuff. I'm trying to I want to put together a little episode on void years and contract restructures and things like that, because that's what they're doing with Deshaun. They're tacking on these void years to spread out that cap over. Now his contract's only 5 years, but they're trying to spread it over more than that.
Yeah, like a Shohei Ohtani deal.
Yeah.
No, again, and that's why you can give him all this money, because you're just going to keep restructuring and spreading it out. And if you think his cap hit's going to be 60-some million next year, you guys are crazy.
It's not.
You know what I mean? It's not going to be. They got this planned out. Somebody says sign T. Higgins, and then another person says T is going to get tagged. I don't know if he gets tagged.
It's a little over $20 million.
It's going to be a lot. And Jamar Chase is going to get a ton. Jamar Chase isn't going to play on the Bengals for less than what the franchise tag is. He's going to want Justin Jefferson money, if not more.
The thing is, they don't have to pay Jamar Chase this year, though.
They are.
Yeah, but I'm just saying he's a year behind Jefferson in the league.
The Bengals, broke asses who practice in a balloon under the highway, are not going to have 2 wide receivers on their team. They're not paying $60 million a year for 2 wide receivers.
I don't think so.
It's not. Plus, their quarterback is the highest paid quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, or top 3 or whatever. I'm pretty sure he's number 1.
I think he's number 1. He's definitely he has a bigger total contract value than Deshaun Watson. Is it all guaranteed? No. Is he going to make it all? Yes.
Yes. So it's one of those deals I don't know if they can tag him. He says tag and traded. So maybe, but
somebody's got to be willing to take on that.
The tag, which it would be somebody who needs a number 1, and they're going to bring him in, sign him to a long-term deal.
Exactly.
So we'll see what happens. I do think the Browns need another wide receiver, because I think we're going to be more wide open, more shotgun, more spread out, more motion, all that good stuff. But we got a little bit derailed, but overall, and maybe we'll get Justin's thoughts one day, I think it can be a very good hire. I think the hiring of Tommy Rees we brought him in to be tight ends coach. We just brought him in because he knows offensive stuff.
Yes, he's got a lot of OC experience at the collegiate level. Notre Dame, I was looking at the stats that Notre Dame's offense put up whenever he was the OC there, and then Alabama, what was it, Jalen Milroe?
Yeah.
That he just,
He made a huge jump from week 1 to the end.
Jump. Yeah, that's a team that I thought, this is kind of the year they're out, and then they make the playoff. So I think having Tommy Rees is an underrated signing, having him in the building.
Yep. So there's a lot of offensive firepower in terms of brain power in the Browns organization now, where they can get together, get in the lab, and work together, cook something up that brings out the best in Deshaun.
Deuce Staley gets hired, and he, for the last 2 teams, has been the running backs coach and assistant head coach. I haven't seen his official title or anything. I don't know if there's going to be an assistant head coach for the Browns this season, but they're just bringing in so many guys that can do things, and I'm hoping a lot of that's to alleviate Kevin to really focus on what he does well.
So I actually saw an interesting thing earlier today. People were talking about how Kevin's never going to give up play calling, and somebody's like, I would hold off on that. He did an interview in 2023 where he talked about how calling plays during the game is exhausting. And it's just because you're making a decision every 30-some seconds, coming up with the play. So I think it sounded to me like if he ever found somebody that he really trusted, he would let him call plays. But also he's on the first contract. He's trying to turn a team around. You're not going to trust somebody else with your job.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
You know what I mean? Good point. You're not going to trust now if he gets an extension and he's he's going to be here a couple more years, okay. But when he's coming in to a COVID season and he's got quarterbacks who are injured and he's got a defense that can't stop a nosebleed for the last couple of years with Joe Woods, he's going, I'm not putting my job in the hands of somebody else. I know I can call plays and I know I can get us to put up points. I'm going to handle this. So I look for him. The longer he's here, maybe the more hands-off he'll get on game day in terms of calling plays. It's not a guarantee. That's just kind of the way I read that interview. If I can find it, I'll post it somewhere on our socials.
Yeah, so trying to see. I thought I had these videos queued up in here. We were talking about Stump Mitchell and the interviews that, he did earlier or last week, I guess. But there was actually, did you see the clip that he had about talking about Kevin and Deshaun and Joe Flacco?
No.
At all? All right, let me play it. And I guess we should have tested this first. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it, but let's see.
Deshaun Watson is looking to come back from that shoulder injury, and there's question marks on what he's going to look like. Can he put a full season together with what you've seen of him and how he's been able to work in that running backs room and how that offense wants to operate? Where do you see the future with Deshaun Watson on the Cleveland Browns?
Well, the future with Deshaun Watson should be similar to Joe. Deshaun is a passer. Okay, first and foremost, he's a passer. The system and Kevin felt real comfortable calling plays for Joe because Kevin's a hell of a play caller. People constantly ask the question, should Kevin give up play calling? I think he's a hell of a play caller. I mean, he don't drop balls, he don't fumble, he don't throw interceptions. He studies his ass off in terms of knowing the situation, knowing the time to call certain plays. I think that's one thing he definitely does not need to do. I mean, you take him back to Kirk Cousins. That's kind of the mindset he had when he had Joe. That's who Deshaun is. I mean, Deshaun is a runner, but he's a runner by nature. We don't have to create runs for him. Of course, special situations, third zones, or whatever you can do, but Deshaun is a passer. So Kevin, if his game plan is like it was with Joe, we'll be just fine, or the Browns will be just fine.
See, and that's kind of what I was thinking too the whole time when things were just blowing up with Joe Flacco at the end of the season. It was like, I feel like Deshaun Watson can do this. And then when I heard Stump Mitchell, who's in the room at practice every day with these guys, he's been there since the beginning of training, all this stuff. And he's saying, look, I feel like Kevin was altering his offense a little bit, his play calling for Deshaun. And then Joe came in, he's like, yes, I'm much more comfortable calling for this type of quarterback. But Deshaun can do that too.
Can he?
I mean, he had some big passing seasons, big passing games in Houston. It's just
a lot of his game is ad-libbing. Well, not necessarily ad-libbing, but it's more backyard football. It's more Patrick Mahomes-ish. So I think Deshaun needs to do a lot of studying this year, learning to play within the structure of the offense and that kind of stuff. But we've seen him make throws that you're just not a lot of guys can make these throws.
Right. And I'm thinking of, was it the Titans game? He made a throw to DPJ down the sideline.
Yes.
Where he just kind of dropped back in the pocket, went through a quick progression, and just shot the ball down the sideline. And I mean, you talk about putting a window.
Well, and I think there's something to be said. He's even this year, I think somebody said he was the second highest passer rating in the second half of games or something like that. It's like he doesn't come out comfortable. And he said it on his podcast. He doesn't like scripted plays. Some people took it and ran with it. G. Bush and said
the first 15,
him and Kevin have a rift. Clickbait bullshit. But no, he just was saying in general, I just don't know. He just likes coming out and just like, it's a free flow. And I think Kevin needs to adapt some of that. Like, obviously you got to be able to play within the structure, but if you can play so well in the second half, like let's incorporate some of that style and play calling into the first half. It'd be great to not have to come back from 10 or 14 down.
I remember we went up to the week 1 game against the Bengals, and I did like a stats show later that week after the game, and I was looking at how many times the Browns were in play action, and it was a ton. We ran so much play action, and Deshaun's completion percentage was like almost perfect on play action passes. It was great. And then week 2, we go to Pittsburgh and play the Steelers, and the play action almost went away. Like there was very, very few.
We had no running back.
That's true. But I'm just saying, like, I saw that immediately this season where that play action, like you were talking about with Joe, like that Flacco was doing in this back half of the season was like, it's working. And I feel like they kind of got away from that, and it could have been like the Nick Chubb running back situation, but hopefully they study up and put together an offense that's going to be electric this year.
It's one of those things, too, where the offense, let's not pretend like we didn't lose Nick Chubb, Jack Conklin, Jed Wills, DeJuan Jones, Ethan Posick for a game here or there, Joel Bitonio for a game. The offense was fighting an uphill battle from the third quarter of week 1. You know what I mean? So it's very hard to fairly judge the offense as a whole when, it was 60% backups for much of this season. So I'm very interested to see what they come up with on the offensive side of the ball. This football season's not even done, and I already can't wait for next football season.
Yeah.
To the chagrin of my wife.
Hey, Browns fans, this is your daily mental health check. If you're struggling with anything, it does not matter. It doesn't matter how big it might seem or how small you might think it is. If it's bothering you, if something's on your mind, if something is stopping you from living the fullest life you can live right now, you need to do something about it. And talk therapy can be a great avenue to get yourself back on track. I'm talking about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Trust me, guys, I've been there. I know how uncomfortable it can be to go to somebody's office, sit in a chair, and talk about feelings. It's not easy to do. And what BetterHelp is great for is giving you the options to communicate with a specialist, a therapist, a trained person in a way that is comfortable for you. You can text message, you can give them a phone call, voice chat, face chat, like a FaceTime with your therapist. The options are just so much better, especially with how busy everybody is, and you're moving, you're on the go. You don't always have time to schedule these appointments and get to somebody's office. BetterHelp gives you so many more options to experience all the benefits of talk therapy. If you've even been thinking a little bit about trying it, it is worth a try. And again, like I've been saying, if it's not for you, just try it for like the first month and then you just cancel. It's okay. It's not for everybody, but like I've told you, if it is for you, it can change your life. BetterHelp, HELP.com/dogs, DAWGS, get you 10% off your first month. You deserve to live the best life you can possibly live. And talk therapy could be that thing that helps you get past whatever it is you're dealing with right now. Head to BetterHelp.com/dogs to get 10% off that first month. This episode is sponsored by Factor. Browns fans, get started on your New Year's resolutions with Factor, America's ready-to-eat meal delivery service that takes all the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success here in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, all the prep work, and the cooking fatigue. Instead, you can get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more, plus they have over 55 weekly add-ons, you guys have a ton of nutritious and flavor-filled options to kickstart your resolutions. I've personally tried Factor's meals. They are incredible. I got a whole bunch of different varieties of things just to see what I liked, what I didn't, and I'm not exaggerating one bit. I like them all. You throw it in the microwave, 2 minutes, and bam, you have a nutritious meal ready to go on the fly. And the nice thing is when things get hectic, Factor is totally flexible. You can change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week. You can even pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime you want. So here we go, guys. Let's stress less over our meal times in the new year. Let's get Factor's no prep, no mess meals, no shopping, no cooking, no cleanup. Head to factormeals.com/thedogs50. That's all one word, thedogs50. Use code thedogs50 to get 50% off your order. That's code thedogs50 at factormeals.com/thedogs50 to get 50% off. Happy New Year, everyone.
So I kind of talking about how this football season's done. I kind of want to transition to talking about these championship games real quick. I think we had a voicemail from Kenny Mack we wanted to play first.
Yes, we do. Let me grab that right quick. All right, here we go.
Yo, guys, it is Kenny Mack, and what a great day. I am a man of my word, and I said if the Kansas City Chiefs knock off the Baltimore Ravens, I would wear a Taylor Swift jersey for a week, and that son of a gun is in the mail right now, coming to me up in Canada. But as far as the rusty, ruddish Ravens, again, they're preseason, regular season, perennial winners, and postseason losers. So Edgar Allan Poe, what do you got to tell me now? Our blustery Buster Butler, or whatever stupid shit you say, like blah, 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 we're a novelty act, blah, blah, you won't be back in the postseason, blah, blah, Ravens all day. Guess what, buddy? You didn't make it. We reserved you a spot in the golf course. And if you're not first, you're last with the rest of us. So tell me again, how many MVP votes did Lamar Jackson get? It doesn't matter because none of them said Super Bowl on him. I'm out, so suck it, Ravens. Whoa, whoa.
I love that he called him Buster Bluster Ravens. That's like the funniest thing when he sent that in the Discord last night. I told somebody at work today, watching the Ravens lose is almost as much fun as watching the Browns win. I was playing some online gaming the other night, and I said my three least favorite teams in all of sports are the Baltimore in no particular order, the Michigan Wolverines, the New Philadelphia Quakers. Sorry if there's anybody watching from over there. And the Baltimore Ravens. Some people are like, where are the Steelers? They're not in my top three. I freaking hate the Ravens. So just quickly, first of all, like if you weren't going to win it this year, all I heard is this is their best team ever that Lamar's ever had. Todd Monken was supposed to be the savior. All I heard was about how good Todd Monken was.
$15 million for OBJ.
Everybody in Baltimore wants Monken fired now. just like it was Greg Roman's fault. It's all of a sudden they're talking. Now the game plan was trash, but maybe there's a reason they get to playoff time and things go right. Lamar Jackson postseason stats. We're going to talk Lamar here. 2-4 record, 1,328 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, only a 59% completion percentage, 72 rush attempts, 516 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 6 fumbles, and a 76 rating. Two wins in his career. So like, yeah, we got to the AFC Championship game. You won one game. You just, nobody else could beat you. We're the last team to beat you in the regular season because admittedly, you're the regular season champs. Congrats. Yep. Every year, regular season champs. Just maybe don't come on and run your mouth all the time. Yeah, we get on our own Browns podcast, and we like to talk about our team, and we hype up our own team on our own Browns podcast. You know what I never, ever do? Go to a Ravens podcast and talk about how good the Browns are. You know why I wouldn't do that? Because we'd look stupid at a time like this.
Exactly, yeah.
And I have better things to do with my life than spend it on a Ravens podcast. So, again, we tried to tell you. It's just – and listen, Lamar's postseason stats are not good. That being said, I think I never look forward to playing him. He's very good, very electric, and I think he's come a long way in passing. The problem is if you watch that game last night, the Chiefs, they do kind of like what the Browns do, is they weren't rushing to sack. They're rushing to contain. And Lamar has come a long way in his passing. Like from his rookie season to now, I think he's way better. Okay. But he's still, and I just don't know if he's ever going to be a high-level, consistent pocket passer. He'll make 2 to 3 throws in a game from the pocket, take his drop plant, and he'll make a throw, and you're like, holy crap. That was that was a really good throw. But then there's going to be 3 to 4 to 5 other times where he just misses wide open throws. And if you're a defense, especially come playoff time, you're probably a high-level defense. You're a well-coached team. You're a disciplined football team. You're going to be told, we'll live with giving up these 2 to 3 plays as long as we don't get burnt for a touchdown or whatever. But if we give up 2 to 3 chunk plays on him making amazing throws, we'll live with it because we know for a fact there's going to be 4 or 5 other times where he's just going to miss wide open guys and he'll fumble or he'll press and make a bad decision. He'll turn it over. And that's the monkey on his back right now. He's got and I just don't know if he'll ever be a high enough pocket passer to overcome that. And then for some reason, they just completely got away from what they did well. They were number 1 rushing team, and they had like 15 rushing attempts.
The Chiefs came in with a great plan on defense. They took that away.
The Chiefs, too, they didn't really take it away. Gus Edwards averaged like 8 yards a carry or something. They just never gave him the ball. I was looking at this.
I would like to know how many plays they ran where Lamar dropped back. And you're right, the Chiefs did a very good job of the contain, and he couldn't get out wide and do his thing. They kept pushing him back. A lot of times he was able to get rid of the ball, throw it out of bounds. But
Gus Edwards only had 3 carries for 20 yards.
What'd Justice Hill do? You have like 3 or 4?
3 carries for 3 yards. Now, Gus Edwards had a long of 15, so he had 1 carry for 15, then he had 2 more for a total of 5. But 3 carries is not enough to get your running back in any kind of rhythm. In an entire game, what is Lamar throwing 37 times for?
That's really high for him.
So, and we tried to say this year, their offense he was throwing much more efficiently, but if you went back and you looked at a lot of his games, it was like he's 21 of 25 for a $180.
Exactly. Yep.
You know what I mean? And that was getting the job done. And then you came out here and you tried to make him this whatever he's not. And it cost you guys again. And I just don't know what to do because they just gave him a huge contract. You can't move off of him because 1, you're giving him a ton of money, and 2, despite the pitfalls to his game, I think he's a top 5 quarterback, like easy. And he's a guy I definitely don't look forward to playing against.
No.
So I just don't know what they do. I don't know what they do. You can't find. I mean, Harbaugh's too good of a coach. You just brought in Monken. Are you going to fire him and go find somebody else who comes up with a new game plan? I don't know what to do. I don't know where they go from here. I do know I don't think, offensively, they're very good defensively, and they play very hard and very, very physical. And Zay Flowers looks like he's going to be pretty freaking good.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
He just needs to not be so stupid.
Okay. But, their second leading receiver was Nelson Aguilar with 1 catch for 39 yards.
Right.
Aguilar is old. He's nothing.
We said it at the beginning of the season when they assembled that wide receiver room. We were like, you're going to do a high-flying passing offense with this?
Yes. There's no, outside of Lamar and Zay Flowers, there's nobody on that offense that scares you. Gus Edwards is a battering ram, and the more carries you give him, if you're wearing a team down, he can run hard, and he'll score touchdowns from the 1 for you. But he's not explosive. I mean, their most explosive running back was the dude who got hurt, who killed us for 3 carries, and they quit giving him the ball.
Oh, Mitchell?
Mitchell. They offensively, outside of Lamar, they don't have, in Zay, they don't really have anybody who scares you. Odell doesn't scare you anymore. He's a solid possession receiver, number 3 receiver on your team.
He made so much money this year to
yes.
do nothing, which is what we said was going to happen.
Yes. So I don't know what they do. I did want to talk about for a second. We don't have to go crazy on each other, but you made a post, and I immediately saw it. And I've seen a lot of people have agreed with you,
and a lot of people don't.
Some people have come from my point of thing. You don't have to read it verbatim if you don't want to, but just kind of give the people what did you?
So the basic gist of the post, and so I posted a clip when Lamar, after he threw the interception that pretty much ended the game for the Ravens, and he came to the sideline and slammed his helmet down. And I posted that clip and made a comment, and I'll say what it was here in a second. But I think that might have been the clip was misleading, and the comment was taken out of context based on the clip. And what I said was, I've seen Lamar Jackson, one of the things I've been the most critical of about him throughout his career. And like you said, probably a top 5 quarterback in the league, definitely the most dangerous quarterback, the one I want to face the least, because he can do what he can do on the ground is just, and it opens up passing things and all kinds of stuff. But I feel like throughout his career, I see him get rattled very easily in games. And when he starts to get rattled, he struggles to come back from it, and he starts to come unglued. And I've seen him throwing fits and stuff on those. And I'm not talking about after bad thing, like the game is over, getting upset during the game. And a lot of people have said, well, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, these guys have all, Pat Mahomes throws stuff and screams and stuff too. And I said, I know, but they are all able, the good quarterbacks get emotional. That's okay. It's football. But they rein it back in. They're able to refocus and recalibrate, get back on the field, and find a way to win. Hence, they have Super Bowls, championships, things of that nature. And Lamar just got the ever elusive second playoff win of his career.
So my standpoint on this was, one, I immediately said, dude, I've seen Tom Brady break 87 Microsoft Surfaces in his life, and I just watched Pat Mahomes try to fight an official for the correct call, a couple months ago. And Peyton Manning, used to freak out on Jeff Saturday and yell, damn it, Jeff, like mid-play and whatnot. And you're saying like they overcome to go win. I don't think Lamar's like temper tantrum, for lack of a better word, doesn't cause the unraveling, in my opinion. I think his unraveling is what causes the temper tantrum. So you can say they're able to pull it back together and go win the game. They're just better. Okay? It's not like Lamar comes out, throws a pick, and then like the rest of the game he's just like awful. I think he's playing bad up until that pick, and then he just continues to play bad. You know what I mean? I've never been watching a game with Lamar where he's lighting the world on fire, and then all of a sudden he throws a pick, throws his helmet down, and is just ass the rest of the game. No, if he has a meltdown in the third quarter and throws his helmet down, it's because he's been ass up until that point, and he just can't figure it out this game, and then he just continues to suck for the rest of the game. So I don't necessarily think it's the temper tantrum. I just think there's limits to his game, and especially if he finds himself down. I just talked about he's not a pure pocket passer, and that takes away his strength. You know what I mean? I do think the longer a game goes on and the longer he's struggling, he will maybe start to press more. You'll see him carry the ball looser. That's why, they call him the fumble. He threw into triple coverage, even though they were moving the ball on a terrible INT. But I just don't think it has anything to do with the temper tantrum. I think the temper tantrum is the cause of quarters of bad play leading up to that point. At least that's the way I look at it.
So, and I'm trying to find, somebody left a comment. I think it was on Twitter, and now I can't find it. So I'm really sorry, but I responded to it, and I thought he said it very well. Now I'm trying to remember what exactly he said, but about Lamar, and I think you might have just mentioned it too, about trying to press more, and he's not built for that. Like he's not, and you talked about how he's just not that elite passer where if you take away what he likes to do and you knock him out of his comfort zone, he's not as good of a player. He's not as effective of a player. And that would be frustrating.
Yep. So some people are saying, I'll never show Baltimore Ravens respect. F them. Listen, I hate the Ravens. That being said, I'm not an idiot. They're a well-run franchise, a well-run organization. That's the most respect you'll get out of them. I can hate them and still know that, they're well-run. So now they'll never show us that same respect, so fuck them, I guess. But, no love will be shown to any division rivals. Period. Okay, I can side with that. So then I wanted to talk about the other game real quick. We got 5-10 minutes here before we wrap it up. Actually real quick before we move on. I talked about the Chiefs. I talked about Pat Mahomes. Is he the GOAT already?
Man.
And how does winning the Super Bowl versus losing it change that? Because if he loses, he's 2-2, but if he wins, I believe he'll be 3-1 in Super Bowls.
No, I'm going to say I don't think he's the GOAT already, just because what Brady did over decades. Just decades of dominance. He's got the numbers, the records, the Super Bowl wins, but of this era, of this new generation of quarterbacks, I don't know if anybody will ever be able to match what Mahomes is doing. And he's young. He's still got like half a career left. God knows what this kid's going to do.
Devontae Travis says no. My pushback to this will be, says he's on his way to GOATness. Especially if he wins this, and he, first of all, every year he's been a starter, he's been in the AFC Championship game. He's going to most likely dwarf all the passing numbers if he plays
as long as he stays healthy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as he stays healthy.
Yep.
If he retired before we even played this Super Bowl, he'd go to the Hall of Fame, I think, first ballot.
Oh, that's true.
Okay. So I think I don't know. It's almost like you can't call like Tom Brady Bill Russell. I saw Cowherd and Nick Wright try to say this because Tom Brady has all the records. You know what I mean? Like some people won't call Bill Russell the GOAT because he has like 11 championships, but he didn't have, he doesn't have any like the top scoring records and stuff like that. And he played in an easier era. Well, you can't say that about Tom Brady. He played through, 3 eras and he has all the passing records. So you can't call him Bill Russell. I don't know if I'll call him Mahomes. I will say he's the best quarterback I've ever watched.
Okay,
But in order to be considered the GOAT first, the body of work has to still be there. I think if he wins, I don't think he has to get to 7. I mean, if honest to God, if Pat Mahomes gets to 3, doesn't win anymore, but he keeps putting up 4,500 yards, and I think he'll be.
I think it's important to define GOAT because if you're going by numbers, then no, of course not. I mean, he's not even close to Brady's numbers yet because he hasn't played nearly as long. But if you're talking about quarterback impact on the field, maybe. I mean, Pat Mahomes is able to do things that like you just said, best quarterback ever seen. I've never seen any quarterback be able to do the things he does. I mean, he is
like Devon. I can't stand this argument. Take away Reed and Kelsey, can he win? By calling him the GOAT, you're saying he's better than Brady. He's a physically gifted, better quarterback than Tom Brady.
It's also like saying for Brady, well, okay, take away Belichick and Julian Edelman or Randy Moss.
Yes.
I mean,
go find me the quarterback who's had a lot of success with bad coaches and bad players.
There really aren't any.
Tom Brady played for arguably the best football coach of all time for 20 of his years.
Right.
Look at in his first 3 Super Bowls, he was essentially a game manager that had the best defense in the league every single year. Like you can't take away. So he has, in order to be the GOAT, he has to play with no coaches and no players. This was a down year.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be the year that they were vulnerable. Their offense was shot. Kelsey's been beat up. They have the worst wide receiver core in all of football, and he just took them to another Super Bowl. Like if they get a receiver.
Well, the scary thing is I think that Rashee Rice is turning into a hell of a receiver for them.
And they're going to pair somebody else with him.
And that's the thing. Like he's more of, I wouldn't say he's necessarily a speed guy, but man, he's big body, sure-handed, kind of a possession receiver. He's tough. They get like a quick route runner that can get open in space. Holy crap.
Like it's just, the Super Bowl is going to go through Kansas City for a long time.
As long as he's there.
Yep. And so.
That's why we have Deshaun Watson.
Correct.
And that's why the move was made 2 years ago when they did it.
All right. So let's blow through this real quick. 5 more minutes. Do y'all think Callahan will be here or wind up with his son in Tennessee? I think he's going to stay here.
That's kind of what it seems like.
I've heard the Browns are very defensive of him. I'm not saying they would block him from going, but they very much value having him in the building, and he's one of the highest paid assistant coaches in the league. And I think if he was, you'd be already hearing rumblings about him leaving. He would have been one of the first hires.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think he's going to stay here, which is big. I'm excited for that.
Yes.
Last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here, we'll just do this real quick. The NFC Championship game. Lions, man, I feel for them. If there's a team I was rooting for the Ravens to lose, and I don't even hate the 49ers, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I think Kyle Shanahan's a good coach. I actually am a big Brock Purdy defender. I like Christian McCaffrey a lot. I've been high on him since he was at Stanford, and I love Nick Bosa. So I'm not mad to see the Niners get their shot at the championship, but I was pulling for the Lions, no doubt. If there's a fan base I identify with in this league, it's the Lions and the Bills.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really cool. I'm a huge Dan Campbell fan. I have been since they hired him. So, but he's catching a lot of heat in terms of his aggressive approach to the football game. Where do you chat? Where do you guys stand on basically the decisions he made that led to that game?
All right.
We got 5 minutes here.
So do you, off the top of your head, do you remember what the score was when they opted to go for it the first time?
I think they could have made it.
Was it 14-7?
They could have made it a 3-score game at one point if they kicked a field goal.
Okay, because I remember thinking that they were in a similar position as the Chiefs, where the Chiefs were up 14-7, I believe, and could have made it 17-7 with a field goal. They went for it on fourth down, didn't get it. And I'm not a fan of either of these teams, so no skin off my back. I don't mind going for it, like in that situation. Let's be aggressive. Let's see if we can get up another touchdown here. Let's keep pushing the ball. We're, and press and do that kind of thing. But when it doesn't work and then you get in position to do it again, that's where I would probably opt to go ahead and take the more sure 3-score lead because, and I told you today, I said the thing that's hilarious to me about the Lions is they declined to take 3 points 3 times and they lost by 3 points.
My pushback to that is, if they decided to kick the field goal, the refs wouldn't have just said, okay, it's good, you get 3 points. And their kicker's not.
No, they got to make it. I understand.
And their kicker's not good.
If you don't have confidence in your kick, there's a lot of factors that go into what a coach, when he makes these kinds of decisions, it's not just, screw it, we're just going to go for it this time.
Their kicker, I'm pretty sure their kicker's been cut a bunch of times. He's not very good. And this is kicking in a dome. This is out. Now I know the weather is fine, but it's still, and I think the league average from 48 plus or something is only 70%. So it's not at least that last one, it's not a guarantee that he makes it. Okay. Mm-hmm. 2, and this was my big thing here. Dan Campbell takes over this team and changes the culture. Without Dan Campbell, he believes in his guys. He's going to go down fighting with his best players on the field. He shows belief in them, and that's why they bought in, and that's why they went from one of the worst teams in football history to playing in the NFC Championship game 3 years later. You can't change who you are, what got you to the big game, just because now it's the big game. You can't all of a sudden change your identity. That culture you just spent 3 years building, you throw it out the window in one game. What happens if he calls for them to take the points? They miss. And then now off seasons, coach quit believing us. Biggest time of the year, coach didn't believe in me anymore. He's been trusting me all year to go for it on fourth down out here, putting it on me. Now we got to the biggest game, he didn't trust me anymore. Right. That all of a sudden everything you just built for 3 years is fractured.
And I was looking at it, and again, I'm not Dan Campbell. He is a different breed, and it's working. I was looking at it as, okay, tried it the first time, didn't work. My offense is moving the ball pretty well against the 49ers. We're not having too much trouble here. We're going to get back in position. And then the next time it happens, I definitely, I can say I probably for sure would have said, let's just go ahead and get the 3 here, tack on some points, because again, we're moving the ball. We're going to get more opportunities, especially being the road team.
That being said, I probably would have kicked the field goals.
Okay, so that's fair.
But I can defend him not kicking them.
Because and again, we talked about it in the Dallas game real quick, the one episode. I said, man, I thought that was going for it to take the win at the very end there was great. That was awesome. And then they get the penalty and they get moved back, and it's like, now I would just go ahead and kick the extra point and go to overtime, because your odds of converting that just dropped.
They got screwed so bad in that game.
They did. They got totally screwed. But you're right. It is on brand.
But yeah, so I understand the decision. I support the decision. I can get behind why did it. Again, you can't just all of a sudden change who you are in the big game. That's what got you there. You got to go with your strength. I had another thing I was going to say. I don't remember what it was.
You're having trouble with this tip of the tongue stuff today,
I know.
aren't you?
Well, because I have something and then we start talking and I think about other things. I've had 5 concussions, man. Give me a break.
The CTE is setting in.
Yeah. So, but no, I felt for the Lions. I was pulling for them, but I think they'll be back. The NFC's not as much of a gauntlet.
But still a 24-7 lead. You know what I mean? This
is what I was going to say. They had this lead, and despite not taking the points and whatnot, they were still up huge, okay? And him not taking those points Brock Purdy threw a touchdown pass off the defender's face. You know what I mean? And Brandon Ayuk catches the deflection for a touchdown. And then almost like a minute later, Detroit fumbled and gave him the ball right back, and they scooped and scored.
Yeah,
scored right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a 14-point swing that you're not probably taking into account when you decided to go for it on fourth down. Like, you're like, well, even if I don't get this, my defense is playing really well.
Devontae even said in here, like, there was that play later in the game where they were trying to convert a fourth down to keep moving the ball to go score. Jared Goff hit Reynolds right in the hands, and he just dropped it.
So I think he's going to get questioned and scapegoated a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think if you go ask the players, the players in that locker room are happy Dan Campbell went to go for it. They're going to say, we didn't execute properly to get the job done. Nobody in that locker room is going, I wish DC would have kicked the field goal. Maybe the kicker is. You know what I mean? But other than that, like, those guys, they like the fact that the coach put it on them.
I mean, you show me an offensive guy who on fourth and less than 5 isn't saying, let us go for it. Let us go for it. I mean, that's how competitors are. So of course, the players are going to be behind the decisions. It's more so the fan base.
Yes.
You know,
but
I'm sure they're not as thrilled, but
Lions fans, I felt for you. We're here for you if you guys need to talk.
We were pulling for you guys.
Yes. Well, we went over a little bit. We had a lot we kind of wanted to cover. We wanted to jump into the Dorsey hiring and obviously championship games and stuff like that. Make sure you guys head to thedogpodcast.com/vote. Get your votes in for the Mad Dog Awards. Next episode, we're obviously going to present the Mad Dog Awards and then obviously talk Super Bowl. So make sure you guys please vote, and then make sure you guys tune in next week to see who won. It's always a fun episode. We got fun screen effects and sound effects, and sometimes we throw on suits. It's a good time. So make sure you guys tune in for that by heading in again. Vote at thedogspodcast.com/vote. We appreciate you guys being here, spending time with us on a Monday night. Even though the Browns season is done, you guys are still coming here, hanging out with us in the chats. We appreciate it. We appreciate your guys' input. Make sure you guys go follow us on all the socials. Make sure you guys are liked and subscribed here on YouTube. And if you want to hang out with us in the during the week and into this offseason, head to jointhedogs.com to become an official talk back member. Once again, we appreciate you guys being here, and we will see you guys all next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at The Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.